you went flying Billy Spur. Hey, you went driving around the world. Hey, you went brown like a squirrel. Hey, you went Chanel pearls. Hey, you went Rolls Royce car. Hey, you went Rolls Royce truck.
What's happening, baby? Back, baby, coming to you live from Biloxi, Mississippi again. I am your handsome host, Blake, and I cannot wait to get into these locks for week 4 of college, week 3 of the NFL. Now, to review last week, we took an L with Georgia minus 27.5. We took an L with Kansas minus 28 against Nevada. Nevada played out of their minds, and South Carolina played Georgia the first half, and Georgia showed up the second half. So, unfortunately, we lose both of those. We cashed Tulane minus the 10. That's a dub against Southern Miss. We knew Tulane was going to whoop them. Chuck's picks, Liberty Cash is blowing Buffalo out. We'll have more on Buffalo later on in the show. And Iowa State, they called that field goal a miss, and it went in, and they actually did not cover the game, and they lost the game 10-7. Their offense is pretty bad. Now the NFL week 3, Detroit minus the 4.5. I over-researched that one. Seattle, both of the backup left tackles were actually better than the left tackles who were originally starting, and they gave Detroit a game, and Jared Goff threw the pick 6 late, so that did not cash. San Francisco minus 7 was a push. What a wild finish to that. They were up 10 points, and the Rams ended up kicking a field goal at the last 4 seconds of the game. Weird. Sean McVay wanted to, I guess, cover the game because it was 7.5 some places. Luckily, we got it at 7, so that's a push. And then the 40.5, Green Bay and Atlanta. Not even going to talk about that. It went over 40.5. Green Bay came back and beat Atlanta, stomped back. And Chuck's picks, San Francisco, he gets a push, and the Dallas Cowboys minus 9. They cash against the Jets. Now, moving on to college football week 4. Excited, big slate. A bunch of undefeated matchups this week, believe it or not. And it's some good games this week. Keep an eye out for those undefeated matchups. It is crazy this week. Plenty of them. Now, I'm going to start y'all Friday at 9:30. Let's take a Mountain West matchup. Air Force minus 6 against San Jose. San Jose got outrushed by Toledo last week, 229 rushing yards to 40. They're not very good against the run either. And Air Force has a very strong rushing attack with their triple option. And they started out last week very, very strong last Friday against their matchup opponent in the Mountain West. So I love Air Force minus the 6 against San Jose this Friday to start the week off. And let's get us a dub and roll into Saturday like we should. Now, moving on to Saturday. This is crazy. You're going to love this one, though. Give me Rice going into South Florida. Minus the 2.5. JT Daniels showing up. 8 touchdowns, 805 passing yards, only 3 interceptions. South Florida played Alabama hellacious last week. Great football team. But they cannot play the pass. One thing Rice can do, they can throw the ball. So I love JT Daniels going down to South Florida as a minus 2.5 favorite, a road favorite. Give me Rice minus the 2.5 against South Florida. Now, lastly, on Saturday, I love this game. 6 p.m., another undefeated matchup. Like I told you, I like Washington State plus 3 at home. Give me Cam Ward against Oregon State. Washington State against Oregon State plus the 3 at home. I feel like Washington State and Cam Ward will get it done at home. Their coach Dickey, they're going to do very well. Cam Ward's completing 72% of his passes, 986 yards already, 9 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. I feel like they're more battle-tested than Oregon State's defense. They've played San Diego State, UC Davis, and they still have the old quarterback from Clemson, Ukulele or whatever. So I don't know if they're really as good as they seem, and their stats might be inflated. So I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to take Cam Ward and Washington State at home, getting the job done plus the 3. I really like a money line, to be honest, but I'm going to take my points because I'm not being silly. And I also have a slight lean towards Lafayette, giving up the 10 points at home against, guess who? Buffalo. Buffalo is awful. So I would lean towards ULL giving up the 10 points at home if I had to take a pick. Now, rolling you right into NFL Week 3. We start the day off at 12 o'clock. Tennessee versus Cleveland. Tennessee rolls into Cleveland plus 3.5. I like the Titans here. Nick Chubb is out for them, and Deshaun Watson has been playing awful. I just don't see any reason to take Cleveland at home this week. So give me Tennessee plus the 3.5. And since Mike Vrabel's been there, it feels like every game it comes down to less than 3 points. And if I can get Tennessee with 3 and a hook, I'm going to take it. So give me Tennessee plus 3.5 at 12. Now, another 12 o'clock game. Buffalo rolls into town to Washington. Washington is 2-0 for the first time since 2011. They are playing really well, and they erased a 21-3 deficit last week against Denver with Eric Bieniemy calling the plays. Now, I'm not saying he was the main man calling the plays because I know Andy Reid was the guy in Kansas City. But he looks pretty good in Washington. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to – you take what you want out of that. So, the Bills have been turning the football over. Josh Allen has been turning it over like crazy. They did play a great game against Oakland last week, but I think Washington may be a tad bit better than Oakland. So I'm going to be on Washington plus the 6.5 points just because if they were laying 8 last week at home and now they're going on the road laying 6.5, give me the points. And Washington is undefeated and they've been playing pretty good defense at home. So I'm going to be rolling with them. In Buffalo, they've been doing a lot more running the ball lately. They're not throwing it downfield as much, and they're throwing the ball pretty short. Stephon Diggs is probably going to be upset about that, but hey, Josh Allen's not really getting it done, so he might not be him. So give me Washington plus 6.5 and Sam Howell with the points. And lastly, at 3:05, Carolina rolls across country to Seattle. I like Seattle giving up the 5.5. I'm just going to be honest. I don't trust Bryce Young. Over the past 2 games, he's only averaging about 150 passing yards, regardless of him being able to come back and get the backdoor cover against the Saints Monday night. I still think that Seattle is a much better team. Geno Smith lit the lines up last week, which I overthought that. And hey, like I just said, both of the backup left tackles play better than the starters. So I love Seattle this week. At home, Pete Carroll's going to have something cooking up for Bryce Young. And not to mention, Shaq Thompson may not be playing. He got injured Monday night against the Saints, so I love Seattle even more. I think Geno Smith moves the ball up and down the field effortlessly. Last week he threw for 329 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is great against a great Detroit Lions defense, and I know Carolina's defense isn't as good. So give me Seattle minus the 5.5 against Carolina on Sunday at 3:05. Those are the 3 NFL picks I have, and they have a lean. I like Atlanta plus 3.5 against Detroit. If I had to bet it, both dome teams, Detroit, they got a bunch of injuries, and like I said last week, we may have overreacted, and I should have took my own advice. So I lean towards Atlanta, not an official play, but I lean towards Atlanta plus 3.5 against Detroit. Now, to close it out, it's at Back Bay Betting on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. And we're on Facebook again. Like, share, and subscribe. And let's get paid.